I received pretty significant news out of Phoenix. Sources relayed to me that Bradley Beal and Yusuf Nurkic will be removed from the start lineup starting Monday at Philadelphia, and in their place will be starting rookie Ryan Dunn and Mason Plumlee. Now, there is also tension in that locker room. I'm told certain players are unsure of their roles and frustrated with how they're being used, and the coaching staff, they're still trying to figure things out. This situation, it will be something to monitor moving forward.
After losing 10 of their last 13 games, it probably shouldn't be a surprise that the Suns locker room is now in complete and utter turmoil. Late last night, reports started surfacing, namely from Chris B. Haynes, that not only will Yusuf Nurkic be moved to the bench when he returns from his suspension for mushing an opponent's face, but Bradley Beal will also be assigned to a bench role. Sundo, where do we even start? What stands out to you first from this story?
Well, first, Gabe, let me give you your flowers. You did say this at the end of our stream last game against the Pacers. You did say something seemed off. You did say something had to be going on with this team. And I kind of just shooed you away and said, nah, I don't think so. But I got to give you your flowers. You were right. There was something going on. And with this report, it sounds like, really, I think Nurk is out the door quicker than we thought at this point. Now, Beal will be another thing, but I think for sure this means Nurk will be gone ASAP.
Okay, so your brain went where mine did. When I heard this story at first, I thought trade. They're pulling them out of the starting lineup because they want to play them less, and other teams that they're potentially going to trade them to have requested that you spare them minutes and keep them safe until the trade goes through. But the more I'm reading into this, it feels like that might not be what's going on. It might really be that things are so broken, sweeping drastic change has to be made. I'm starting to think they're just moving them to the bench to change things up, which makes sense in a lot of ways, but also as far as their individual trade values, I think it makes them go down.
I think both things can be true. Yes, there is something wrong in that they are just benching these two because of production. The production has not been there as well. But I also think this speeds up the process of getting them out the door. If it's becoming so much of a problem that it's reported now that they're getting benched, then yeah, I feel like you can't let that linger. I think they have to go. I think you start with Nurk. At this point, I don't think there is much of a difference in production between Plumlee and Nurk. So as a fan, if I'm looking at it, just go ahead and get rid of Nurk for a second round pick for all I care at this point. Just get some sort of value back. The Beal contract's probably going to be, actually, it's not even probably, it's going to be way more tougher to move. But Nurk for sure, I think you can definitely move. Simple enough.
Yeah, the other big angle of the story was and is that the report included serious tension in the locker room. I guess we should just expect that it's both of them having tension and friction. I mean, clearly you're dangling Bradley Beal over the league, trying to send him to Miami so he could be upset about that. Nurkic doesn't seem like the type of dude who's difficult to upset. I'll leave it at that. But you actually made a really good point to me before we started recording about why Beal might be feeling some type of way in this locker room other than the Heat trade.
Yeah, I think the stretch of games where Booker was hurt and Bradley Beal basically had the green light to score however he could. I think that made him realize that he could have a much bigger and better role on this team. And I think because him and Booker are so similar of a player, I think there's starting to be a bit of a clash there where, hey, I need the ball in my hands, but you have the ball in your hands, which I think that is why he's getting relegated to the bench, because if he comes off the bench while Booker's sitting, he can then have the ball in his hands. But again, I don't understand where that tension comes from, because that could just be a conversation. Hey, you could just come off the bench as a sixth man. You could just have that role. But I don't understand where the tensions are coming from. That is the weirdest part of this. Nurkic is like, fine. We understand how Nurk works. We understand that he has been, I guess you could say, an emotional type of player. We can understand the use of Nurkic tension easily. But the Bradley Beal one is a little funny to me, like, because it's a simple conversation that could have been had by your coach or by Durant or even Booker, where it's like, hey, What do you think about coming off the bench where you can then score more? You can have the ball in your hands more with the second rotation. As a fan from the outside looking in, it's like, hey, why is that such a big deal? How's that causing tension? But apparently something is there. And that's the weirdest part of this whole situation.
It's weird because by all accounts, they all seem to know what they were signing up for. But what I think is happening is the rubber is hitting the road. Reality is mugging them. And reality is what we've been saying for 2 years now about why it would behoove the Suns to bring Beal off the bench. It never had anything to do with skill level, talent level, what he can produce. It had nothing to do with how much you're paying him. It had to do with how do you fit these jigsaw puzzle pieces together to make this thing a whole completed picture. And putting two pieces on top of each other was never going to work. And so it was going to take some extra laying aside of your ego on Bradley Beal's part, which is hard to ask him to do because he's done so much of that already, having come to the Suns, but ingenuity on the Suns coaching staff for Bud, drawing on his history of working with Coach Popovich and knowing how the Manu Ginobili situation worked and orchestrating that on your own team. It would have been great if we could have just come to this conclusion voluntarily, but no, we had to headbutt a brick wall over and over and over until people finally realized, oh, well, I guess we don't need two high-scoring shooting guards on the court at all times together. But now it's too late because now everybody's upset.